As a Christian sex therapist, couples are always asking me, what is normal concerning frequency in the bedroom? Well, what exactly is normal? Stick around to find out.
We talk about all things faith, hope, and intimacy on this channel. So please hit subscribe and make sure to ring the notification bell so you're notified the next time we drop a video.
Hey online family, I'm Amanda, a licensed marriage and family therapist and also a certified Christian sex therapist.
And I'm Pastor Andrew. And at the end of this video, we hope you'll have a better understanding on how often you should be heading to the bedroom. This information has helped so many, and if applied, is guaranteed to help you and your spouse. How often should married couples make love? Great question.
First of all, with looking at the statistics, it's really important to understand that some of the data can be a little skewed because people aren't always honest with their private matters, or for that matter, technically accurate.
That's right. A recent study concluded that couples who have sex at least once a week are happier than couples that don't have sex at least once a week. A similar study concluded that couples that have sex on average greater than once a week don't necessarily show happier than couples that are not having sex greater than once a week. That is a mindful, but basically what it says is that there is no guarantee for happiness in couples that have sex greater than once a week, but that on average, most couples that do have sex at least once a week do show happiness.
That is a little bit confusing. Another thing to consider is that there's a lot of factors that actually could be at play as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps the couple's age, or if they just had children, that's something that will definitely slow down a couple's frequency. Or injuries or life circumstances, things like that, dysfunctions, those are things that can really affect the frequency of time that you're together in the bedroom.
That's true. It is important to understand that regardless of what statistic you're looking at, average is not normal. Average is a snapshot in time for that study with those specific people. You could do the exact same study again with the exact same people a few days later and get a completely different result. So, to recap, there is no normal, only what you and your spouse are comfortable with. So how do you develop a frequency that you and your spouse are comfortable with and excited about?
Step one is simply to communicate, talk. So you'd be surprised, or well, maybe you're not surprised, how many couples have never talked with their spouse about what their frequency desires actually are. This can cause a host of problems and misconceptions and just assuming what your spouse wants. But if you actually take time to talk about it, then you'll know.
Yeah.
This is also an important conversation to revisit. So perhaps you've had the conversation a few years ago and now things have happened. You now have children or life has changed. That's a good time to revisit the conversation and ask again with our current life circumstances, what desire and frequency would you like now?
When intimate communication begins to grow and needs are satisfied, increased frequency is usually not far behind. If this is helpful so far, give us a thumbs up in the comments down below.
Okay, for those of you that have the conversation and you don't magically align with the same frequency desire as your spouse, number 2 is in order. So number 2 is basically learning to compromise.
Yes.
So differences with sexual desire and frequency is so common.
Yeah.
This is easy to create conflict as well, especially if you're not communicating. So perhaps you don't communicate. The perception of what your spouse wants can easily become skewed. So for example, let's say your spouse wants sex once a day and you would like it once a week. Over time, it will feel like to the woman, the husband wants sex 3 times a day, and the husband feels like the wife only wants it once a month. These misconceptions can be easily handled by compromising and talking about those differences.
Number 3, schedule. Couples desiring to increase the frequency of intimacy in their lives need to learn the art of scheduling. You have to design time in your life and in your schedule for your spouse. So, scheduling sex, that doesn't sound very exciting. I know what you're thinking. Spontaneous sex can be great and lots of fun. And if that's working for you, great job. But for most of us, life sometimes gets in the way. And when that happens, spontaneous sex tends to dwindle. That's where planning comes in. That's where scheduling comes in. That allows us to set aside that time and prioritize our lovemaking with our spouse.
It's important also to mention that just because you're scheduling sex does not mean that it should have a demand or perhaps a requirement for sex. You're just having this time that the two of you can be together. If you have sex, that's great. If not, that's okay too. Just really setting aside some time to be together is really important. If you have demand, it's possible that you're going to end up getting into an approach avoidance cycle. This is where if one partner is wanting sex all the time, they begin to increase their approaches, which makes the other spouse avoid because they're not interested. And so the approacher continues to approach even more. This causes this awful cycle where you're avoiding and approaching, and it's just not a great place to be.
Sex is about growing the relationship, not the numbers. When couples set aside quality time for one another in their intimacy, they're saying, I love you, I love to be with you. This is an affirming action. When one spouse says it to the other, it causes desire to well up inside of the other. It's a very, very positive thing. But just because you start scheduling doesn't mean that you can't be spontaneous anymore. In fact, if you are both desiring the spontaneity, by all means act on it.
Also, take into consideration, especially for the ladies, you don't have to be in the mood ahead of time either. So actually, a lot of women aren't often in the mood until they're more in the process. With scheduling, anticipation of those scheduled times together actually helps you to be interested as well. So those are both ways that you can help become more interested in being with your partner, but you don't always necessarily have to be ahead of time in the mood. So we recommend that you schedule once a week, some time that you set aside specifically for you and your partner, again, without any demand or pressure, but just some time that's set aside. If you want more times than once a week, that's great. Go ahead and absolutely schedule that. If once a week feels overwhelming to you, that's fine. Start somewhere. Just go ahead and have the conversations with your spouse and begin to start and get it on your calendar and really design it into your life.
By communicating, being willing to compromise, and scheduling, you are able to improve your lovemaking.
This is a great video for you guys to share with your spouse. So go ahead, share with your spouse and ask them, what do you desire our sexual frequency to be? Then also share with them what you're thinking. If you're on the same page, that's wonderful. If not, this is a perfect time to compromise. Go ahead and discuss and make a schedule and give it a shot. Try it out and see what you think.
Check out our video, 10 Ways to Have Fun with Sex. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe and share it with your friends. And if you found this video helpful, respond with helpful.
And as always, subscribe for more weekly influential encouragement and inspiration. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.
Bye.